Cannibalism is the animal kingdom slow version. In the desert of the American Southwest, spade-foot-toed catballs hatch in tiny oases. Until they develop into toddlers, they can survive outside of water, but these ponds are transient and quickly evaporate. The tadpoles are a race against the clouds to grow up before their nursery disappear. So nearly overnight, some of the blood explode in size. They use their giant teeth and huge jaw muscles to devour their smaller pond mates. Nourished by this extra fuel, they develop quicker, leaving the pond before it can dry out. The spade-foot toad is far from the only animal to eat members of its own species as a normal part of its life cycle. All of these animals do. If that surprises you, you're a skull company. Until recently, scientists thought cannibalism was a rare response to starvation or our extremely stress. Well-known cannibals like praying mantis and black widow spiders were considered bizarre exceptions. But now we know they are more or less represent the rule. While it may seem counterproductive to members of same species eating each other, cannibalism can promote the survival of the species as a whole by reducing competition, culling the weak, and bolstering the strong. Some species, like the spadefoot toad, cannibalize in response to environmental pressures. Their situation is precarious, but cannibalism for them isn't a last-ditch attempt to avoid starvation. Rather, it's a way to more quickly outgrow a stage where they are especially vulnerable to predation or dangerous environmental conditions. Other species, including many fish, indiscriminately cannibalize each other during foraging behavior. Fish produce large numbers of tiny young, and adults exhibit about as much individual recognition of their offspring as humans do for handful reasons. Fish eggs, larvae, and juveniles are easily available, nutrient-rich meals. And with thousands of eggs in a clutch, plenty are still available to hatch after the adults have snagged. Baby fish are just at risk of being cannibalized by adults. Siblings eat each other too. Sand tiger shark eggs develop and hatch inside their mothers' oviduct at different times. When the hatch run off the yolk from their own eggs, they eat the other eggs and hatchlings until one baby shark from each oviduct remains. When they emerge, the young sharks are well-nourished, experienced predators to stand a better chance of surviving. Even when they are consumed for nutrition, young animals are especially vulnerable to cannibalism. Hamsters, rats, and other vermin mothers will eat some of their young if they are sick, dead, or simply too numerous to feed. In other mammals, including bears and lions, males will kill offspring silenced by another. That's because childless fitness become receptive to mating more quickly than they are caring for a cub. Rather than waste nutritious meat, the males then eat the dead cubs. Meanwhile, cannibalism is less common in birds than in other groups, but certain species will eat diseased or dead hatchlings as a way of disposing the body before they can attract mates. When adults eat each other, males are cannibalized more often than females, usually during mating and generally because they are smaller. Male Australian redback spiders mate with much larger females. Rather than scrubbing away after meeting, the tiny male does a somersault, bringing his abdomen into contact with his mate's mouth parts. The female showers him with enzyme-rich gut juice and consumes his abdomen. Males not killed in the initial mating crawl back into the fray, often half eaten, to mate again, after which they are dispatched to the spider pantry. So not only does the male provide the female with his sport, but he also provides her with a nutritious meal to better ensure that she's survival to pass on his genes. All in all, it's clear that cannibalism is as much a part of life in the animal kingdom as other better recognized behaviors. As we sink our teeth into the evidence of cannibalism in nature, we might ask ourselves, what else have we missed by applying human standards for the natural world? Want more with original speed. In the desert of American Southwest, space-foot-tall tadpoles hatched in tiny oases. Until they develop into toddlers, they can survive outside of water, but these ponds are transient and quickly evaporate. The tadpoles are on a race against the clock to grow up before their nursery disappear, so nearly overnight, some of the blood explodes in size. They use their jagged teeth and huge jaw muscles to devour their smaller pond mates. Despite this extra fuel, they develop quicker, nibble the ponds before it can dry out. The space turtle is far from the only animal to eat members of its own species as a normal part of its life cycle. All of these animals do. If that surprises you, you're good at company. Until recently, scientists thought cannibalism was a rare response to starvation or other extreme stress. Well-known cannibals like praying mantis and black widow spiders we consider bizarre exceptions, but now we know they more or less represent the rule. While it makes seem counterproductive members the same species to eat each other, cannibalism can promote the survivor species as a whole by reducing competition, cooling the weak, and upstream the strong. Some species, like the spadefoot toad, cannibalize in response to environmental pressure. The situation is precarious. The cannibalism for them is a last attempt avoid starvation. Rather, it's way to more quickly outgrow a stage where they're especially vulnerable to predator or dangerous environmental conditions. Other species, including many fish, indiscriminately cannibalize each other during forced behavior. Fish produce large number of tiny young, and adults exist about as much individual recognizance of their offspring as humans do for herpetologism. Fish as larvae and juveniles are easily available nutrient-rich meals, and with thousands of eggs in crocs, plenty are still available to hatch after the others have snagged. Baby fish are just at risk of being cannibalized by adults. Siblings eat each other too. Since tiger shark eggs develop and hatch inside their mother's oviducts at different times. When the hatchlings run out of yolk from their own eggs, they eat the outer egg and hatch the egg until one baby shark from each oviduct remains. When they emerge, the young sharks are well-nourished, experienced predators who stand a better chance of surviving. Even when they are consumed for nutrition, young animals are especially vulnerable to cannibalism. Hamsters, rats, and other water mothers will eat some of their young if they're sick, dead, or simply too numerous to feed. In other mammals, including bears and lions, males will kill offspring sized by another. That's because childless females become receptive to mating more quickly than if they're caring for a cub. Rather than waste nutritious meat, the males and eat the dead cubs. Meanwhile, cannibalism is less common in birds than other groups, but certain species will eat diseased or dead hatchlings as a way of disposing a body before they can attract maggots. When adults eat each other, males are cannibalized more often than females, usually during mating, but generally because they are smaller. Male Australian redback spiders mate with much larger females. Rather than screaming away after mating, the tiny male does a somersault, bringing its abdomen into the contact with its mate's mouth part. The female showers him with enzyme-rich gut juice and consumes its abdomen. Males not killed in the initial mating crawl back into the fray, often half eaten to make again, after which they are dispatched to the spider pantry. So not only does the male provide the female with the spur, but he also provides her with a nutritious meal to better ensure that she is a fiber to pass on its genes. All in all, it's clear that cannibalism is as much part of the life in the animal kingdom as other better recognized behaviors. As we sink our teeth into the evidence of cannibalism in nature, we might ask ourselves, what else have we missed by applying human standards for the natural world?